Brussels was not able to find and give the proper answers that led to the downgrading of the European Union, while Hungary could be able to find the right answers, which in this way upgraded Hungary. And in fact, the impact of these four major crises, the fact that the European Union was not able to find the proper answers, is that the European Union has isolated itself, and one of the major reasons for the establishment of the New World Order is that the European Union is not involved in global politics or global economy. And at the beginning, the European Union has already made a lot of mistakes. Basically, all the decisions that came from the European Union regarding the war increased the risk of the escalation of the war. And here in the neighborhood, we find this very dangerous. We are the only country in the NATO and the European Union that has never, perhaps ever, provided weapons to Ukraine. We are talking about this peace from the beginning. And I remember that those European leaders who are now speaking about ceasefire after the peacemaking of the Prime Minister supported us in a terrible way after the Prime Minister's peacemaking statements that there should be a ceasefire. At that time, they considered a ceasefire, and now they argue for it. Practically, this shows that it is obvious that the European Union should be underpinning the efforts of, for example, Trump to make Ukraine peaceful. Many of the people had a kind of a feeling of shame when the European leaders were trying to get Zelenskyy to come to Washington so that he could not, by any chance, somehow, stop the peace. And if the European leaders had not supported the efforts of President Trump, then there would not have been a peace at our eastern neighborhood. And I see a total frustration in Europe because of the isolation. As a result, the European leaders consider Ukraine as if it were their war, as if it were our war. Russia did not attack the European Union. This is not our war. Ukraine is fighting for itself, so we have nothing to do with them. The European Union has isolated itself from the most important figures in world politics. It has isolated itself from the United States. And we remember the competition among the European leaders, which started in 2016. Who can make the most famous statement about President Trump, only to be on the front page of the newspapers one day? And those who said this may not even remember it, but unfortunately, President Trump remembers it. The European Union has isolated itself from China as well, and it has practically shown itself as if we were at the level of a system rival. But who wants to compete with them? Ukrainians are constantly trying to achieve in Brussels that it is harmful for Hungary, that it is a threat to Hungarian sovereignty, to Hungarian energy security, and thus to the safe operation of the country. For example, by immediately banning the purchase of Russian oil and natural gas, by immediately banning the purchase of Russian oil and natural gas, by immediately accepting sanctions against the Russian nuclear industry, Russian oil companies, and Russian gas companies during the 20th sanctioned package negotiation, which would obviously mean that we would not be able to buy nuclear fuel from the Szijjártó power plant from the day after the acceptance, so its operation would stop. We would not be able to continue our cooperation with the new Szijjártó power plant, so its construction would stop. We would not be able to buy Russian natural gas and Russian oil from the day after the decision. Those who want to undermine the safe operation of Hungary, the energy security of Hungary, the sovereignty of Hungary, are taking countermeasures against us. Those who do this are our enemies, and Ukraine is currently our enemy, because Ukraine is taking countermeasures against Hungary, and we cannot, will not, and will not let this happen. From a Hungarian point of view, this explanation is completely logical. As the Prime Minister says, we have seen the reaction of Ukraine with the strengthening of the Hungarian Assembly. What was the reaction of the international community or the European community in the past 2 days? Look, Europe is now suffering from a war and sanctions fanaticism, so they are burning in Brussels in the 20th sanctions package. They are making more and more wild suggestions. Now they want Rosatom, Gazprom, and Lukoil to be on the sanctions list, so those Russian energy companies, cooperation with them is of critical importance for Hungary, both for the sake of our energy security and for the maintenance of the fat reduction. So there is a very severe war and sanctions fanaticism going on right now. No one is in a position to say that with the president of the world's #1 superpower and with the leaders of great powers who can influence our region decisively, we are in a good relationship. The U.S. president has now called the Prime Minister to Washington again, where he will be the peace counselor. He is counting on the participation of the Prime Minister, who will also be there, as he was in Davos, as he was in Sharm el-Sheikh. We can only trust Donald Trump in terms of peace, and we who have been standing for peace in the past 4 years naturally sit at the table. The frustration of the European Union also comes from this. There is a war conflict in Europe, and a lot of people are sitting around the table except for the European Union. But you have to understand why this is the case, because if the European Union constantly denies Donald Trump's claims to peace, if the leaders of the European Union make statements that the European Union is not ready for peace, if the European Union constantly undermines the path to peace, then this must be accounted for. The European Union, Balázs, I have to say, has become insignificant. I saw this morning that Rubio is coming. He's coming. From this week, we'll have good days because Mr. Colleague is coming to China tomorrow. My friend Wang Yi is coming tomorrow, and we'll talk to him. And next week, the American Foreign Minister colleague is coming. This is what it's like when a country is isolated. It's hard. In 5 days, the Chinese and the American Foreign Minister will arrive. We live in a very serious isolation here. So I hope that the opposing media will write that this is terrible. The question is whether Rubio is coming to prepare a visit for his prime minister or not. That's why he's coming. You shouldn't exclude any version. But in the next 61 days, or until the visit becomes a reality, of course, I will ask you 61 times, and the Prime Minister, what the situation is with Trump. But then the situation didn't change, that he has an invitation. We can be sure that he will ask this every day. Now they will meet on February 19th, 20, if I remember correctly. That's right, next week, in Washington. In Washington, and if there will be another time, we will report that as well, of course. There is a decision in Brussels. In Brussels, they decided to go to war against the Russians. This was also written down by the 2 European nuclear powers by sending soldiers to Ukraine. Now the European foreign ministers are openly saying that the European Union is not ready for peace, or that the EU is against the success of peace talks, and that the EU wants the war to continue. This is what they are saying. The European foreign ministers are openly saying that the United States is a challenge to the EU. They are openly saying that the Americans are giving too many permits to the Russians, And they are openly saying that the American peace talks need to be banned. The peace talks need to be banned. So in Brussels, a decision was made to go to war with the Russians until 2030. This is why the next election will be in 60 or 62 days, because by 2030 this will be the last Hungarian parliamentary election. Not yet. And now we can decide whether we go to war or not. As so far, we have had to forcefully tell Brussels not to push us into war, and in the next 4 years we will have to forcefully tell them not to push us into this war, which they have decided will happen. Yes, it is terrible that they set up the false image that Ukraine should go to war with us, and that Ukraine should go to war with Europe. This is not true. Europe does not go to war with the Russians. Russia did not attack the EU or any other country. The Russians go to war with the Ukrainians. There is a Russian-Ukrainian war. We have nothing to do with this. Setting up this war as if we asked the Ukrainians to go to war, and the Ukrainians ask us to go to war, is a lie. This is why we have nothing to do with them. Good, because there is a domestic war.